I admit my tech stack could be somewhat complicated, but it also works especially well for me. And well, that's the point of having the right tools for the job, right? But one of the places where I found my process kind of falls down is logging ideas for my podcast, The Streamlined Solopreneur. This year, I've been doing a lot more solo episodes, and that was really intentional. I feel like my interview format started to get a little stale. I wasn't keeping to the mission of the show. And honestly, I want the podcast to be an opportunity for me to both teach and talk through what I'm doing in my solopreneur business. And so I've been struggling lately to come up with good ideas for solo episodes, or so I thought. I've made a couple of changes to my process, and today I want to build the automations for you that will help me better capture ideas so that I'm not always starting with a blank slate. Okay, so first of all, you can see here my podcast planner. I have all of the episodes here in order, as well as some ideas below and the day they're going live. Fun fact, episode 500 actually comes out on my 40th birthday. I wish I could have told you I planned that, almost 10 years ago, but just a nice coincidence. So here is where any interviews will go, as well as the solo episodes I'm thinking of. And lately what's been happening is I would look at gaps in my interviews because I have a ton of really great interviews coming up. And then I would write the word solo and guest name and just think about, oh, what do I want to talk about this week? Which is not great, but I feel like I don't want to be too repetitive. And for the record, I wouldn't worry about being too repetitive. I mean, unless you're saying the same thing in the same exact way week after week after week, you do want to repeat your core message in different contexts. So I think this was just like a limiting belief that I had, that I was being too repetitive about stuff, because no one knows exactly what you talk about as well as you do. So I wanted to change this up. I wanted to have a stock of solo episodes ready to go so that when I'm sitting down to batch a bunch of episodes, I'm not thinking about things on the fly. Well, I write a newsletter, and I suspect I can expand upon some of these concepts in the newsletter. So the first thing I did was I went to my newsletter database in Notion. I have it here because while I write the newsletters in a different app, I want my VA to go through and actually publish these to both my blog and Substack. I added a new status here called Make Streamlined Solopreneur Episode. And so what I do is once these are published, I will move them over to this column, or I'll select the ones that I think will make good episodes, things that I could really add more context to. I don't want these episodes to be just me reading the newsletter, because I don't think that's a big value add. I think people who prefer to listen to the episodes can do that in their feed reader of choice or whatever they have. So I want this to add value without kind of exactly rehashing what I've written. So once I move this into the Make Streamlined Solopreneur episode, I have an automation here in Notion that will take it and move it into the Streamlined Solopreneur episodes database so that I don't have to worry about copying and pasting. I just change the status and it moves over to that database. And we can see that here because I have the exact title, but then I also have a relation so that I can go back to the actual text and reference it. Something really frustrating I will say about Notion's automations, which have gotten a lot better in the last year, is that I can send properties for a page, but I can't actually send the page content, which is a little frustrating. I want to reference the text here, and I'm sure that there was like a decision they made that's like, why are you copying everything exactly? But I would love to have that text more easily referenceable here. So right now, when I sit down to actually build the outline, I'm going to have to use the relation to go see the text of the article and turn that into a podcast outline. So that's the first automation I built, but I also don't use Notion for quick capture. I just think it's a slow and clunky app, and I rarely ever look at it on my phone unless I absolutely have to. Where I do capture things on my phone is Todoist. Todoist is my favorite task manager. I have tried all of the major ones and some of the minor ones, and Todoist is just the most well-rounded, again, for my needs. If you need simple and beautiful and you only use Apple devices and you don't really need any automations for it, like Things 3 is really good. On the other end of the spectrum, if you need just like the craziest, most complicated setups possible, OmniFocus is there for you. I think Todoist is the Goldilocks task manager. It's got a great web interface. It plays really nicely with Zapier and Make, and it's got fantastic and easy to use apps as well. So this is where I will capture my ideas. It's a lot easier to capture ideas, especially on my phone in Todoist. And you can see here, like I do have some automations whenever somebody books an interview with me. I will have it automatically send over a reminder to do the summary right after the interview. And like I said, I've got some really fantastic guests coming up in the next few weeks as I record this. And then I have a section for solo episodes. So when I have an idea for a solo episode, I'll usually capture it and put it here. And while I could build a shortcut to do this quickly and easily, I usually just end up doing it on my phone. It's fast enough that way, or I'll put it in the inbox and move it to solo episodes. But either way, Todoist, because it's my task manager, is also not the place where I am going to check on my content planning for my podcast. All of that happens in Notion. And so they're two great tools. I use them a lot, but depending on the context, I'm not always going to Todoist for episode ideas. I'm usually going to Notion for that. And so when I come up with an idea, I found, again, right before I recorded this video, I had some lost ideas in Todoist. Luckily, there is a solution for this in Zapier. Both Notion and Todoist play really nicely with Zapier, so I thought it would be fun to build this automation here and test it out and see how it goes. So I'm going to use the AI beta feature. I found this to be like pretty good. And especially for simple things like this, where I know both tools already exist in Zapier, I can just be really specific about it. So when I add a task to Todoist, send it to Notion. Okay, so it'll think for a little bit and then it will do this. Now, this is not right, but I can change this in the actual automation. So I'll go ahead and click try it because it'll build most of it for me. So new and complete task is what I actually want. I'll click continue, and then I'll select the project here from Streamline Solopreneur is the project, and seems like I can't choose sub list or a section here. No, it seems like I can't. That's a little bit frustrating. So let me go back to Todoist. So I'll add a solo episode here. Make that the episode. I'll add the task just so we have something to test with. So the project is Streamline Solopreneur. I'll click continue and then I will test the trigger. And we've got, there we go. How to use Zapier with Todoist. Now I am going to just take a quick look here and see if, no, so it doesn't. Oh, it includes the section ID. Gosh, that's super strange. So this should change, right? Because these are interviews. Okay, so I have the section ID. I'll have to make do with that. I will now add a filter because I only want this to be for solo episodes. And so only continue if section ID exactly matches this ID. We'll continue. This test record will match. Fantastic. So now we'll create a database item. This is probably that one. And then the database. So something to watch out for if you're not seeing your database here in this list is you do have to explicitly give Zapier access to the databases that you want. So you'd have to go to the database, click the three dots, click connections, and make sure Zapier is added. If it's not, click add connection and do that. If you do want a full tutorial on how to connect Zapier and Notion, let me know. Leave a comment below and say exactly that. Hey, show me how to connect Zapier to Notion. So I have done this because there are a lot of Zaps connected to this particular database. So Streamline Solopreneur episode. The title will be the name of the task, what they're calling the content here. And then we can ignore all of this stuff Type is going to be solo episode, and the number we can ignore, the transcript we can ignore. Need to write will be the status. Guest name is always solo for my solo episodes. And I don't think we really need to link the task here. But I will add a description. Maybe I decide to add a little extra context here, and I'm going to want that in a couple of weeks or a month when I go back to look at this and be like, what did I mean by that? And so that is everything. So let's go to continue. We will test this step and then we'll check it over in Notion. How to use Zapier with Todoist. Fantastic. Okay, so let's go back and actually publish this. Remember to publish your Zaps. Okay, so I'm going to go back here. Click publish. It's going to publish. And this does 2-minute polling. By the way, I forgot to mention that. This is going to check every 2 minutes. It's not one of those like constant stream things that you see in some automations where as soon as something happens, that actually triggers the Zap. What that likely means is that, I think this happens with cal.com and Calendly. When the thing happens, it will like ping Zapier and Zapier knows to do something. What this means when it does polling is that Todoist isn't reaching out to Zapier and saying, hey, a thing has happened, which I think makes sense, right? Because if someone's adding a bunch of tasks right in a row, that's going to kind of overload or possibly buckle the system. So Zapier runs out to Todoist every 2 minutes and goes, hey, has a new task been added? So now I've done this. Let's add another idea here. That's probably a good one. What's the difference between polling and instant triggers in Zapier? See video where I describe difference and why it's important. Spell difference right. All right, so we'll add this. I'm not going to add the 2 minutes later thing, but 2 minutes has passed. What's the difference between polling and instant triggers in Zapier? See video where I describe difference and why it's important. Great. Everything is working as expected. So the big benefit for me here is that I can quickly capture ideas in Todoist, and I know that they will make it to basically the one true source for my content planner. So the other thing I'll do here is I will show you how to do a quick capture automation in Apple Shortcuts. Okay, so let's go ahead and build this shortcut. I'm going to open Shortcuts and we'll create a new one. I will search, well, first I'll ask for some text, right? So I guess like get input, ask for input, solo episode idea. And so this is going to be a solo episode idea. I'm not going to break it up. This is just going to be like quickly capture the idea. And then if I want to add a description later, I can. Now we'll go to Todoist. We'll choose create task, and then the task name will be the input, and the location will be Streamline Solopreneur, and the section will be solo episodes. No due date, no priorities, anything like that. We don't need to open this when run, and that's it. So now I will change this to new solo idea, and let's give it a little test. So I'll go back. New solo idea, how to create simple shortcuts. And now if I look here in Todoist, we will see I've got the task. Going back on the web, we also see it here. So now the test is, will we see it here in Notion in a minute, which we should. Okay, and we do see it has been added. So with that, I have vastly improved my ability to capture solo episode ideas for my podcast. Let me know, what do you think of this? How do you capture episode ideas or any ideas for your newsletter, for your interview podcast, for YouTube videos? I'd love to hear it. Leave a comment down below. And again, if you want to see me build out more shortcuts, create this in Make, or show you how to connect Notion and Zapier, let me know that too. If you liked this video, be sure to like and subscribe. And until next time, I hope you find some space in your week.